And the very last presentation lies ahead of us. And the next speaker will be Ms. Carmen Laplaza-Santos, Head of Unit for Health Innovations and Ecosystem at the European Commission, Directorate General for Research and Innovation. Her presentation is titled simply, EU Life Science Strategy. And she will provide a European Commission perspective on innovation ecosystems, strategic investment, and the future direction of life science policy within the European Union. Ms. Santos, the audience is eagerly awaiting your lecture.
Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon. I know that I am the last one, so it's only between me and the end. So you have to wait a little bit further. I will try to be, I don't know if I can say amusing when we are talking about European Commission strategies. And anyway, I just would like to start by asking you, how many of you have heard about the life science strategy? Okay. Good. So at least many of you will discover something new today. So the life science strategy is a strategy that was adopted by the Commission at the early July last year. And actually, the reason why it was adopted is really kind of promoted by the top hierarchy of the European Commission. This sector, life science, is very important for European economy and for European competitiveness, a very strong sector, but where, similar as with clinical trials, we are experimenting negative trends. We are losing ground vis-à-vis international competitors, notably in the capacity to bring life science innovation to the market. So no getting return on investment of our efforts from a research and innovation perspective, and although a very strong scientific excellence. So there was this objective to develop a strategy with the overall objective to make the European Union the most attractive place to run life science by 2030. And to realize this vision, this needs absolutely coordinated action across the whole life science value chain. The strategy is structured around 3 main interconnected phases, and there are 27 actions that underpin what we call the life science innovation journey. So I will not go into detail in the strategy because of the lack of time, and I will put the focus mainly on those flagships which are more relevant for ATMPs. But just to give a very brief idea of what is the aim, first, we think that it's very important to have an optimal research and innovation ecosystem in Europe, where one can easily access the tools, the data, the resources, the expertise that needs for its research and innovation, but also that can establish the necessary collaborations with different stakeholders, including across sectors and including cross borders. And we think that it's extremely important in order to facilitate a rapid translation from science to innovative concepts and concrete applications. This is the most important part of the strategy, I would say the first. Sorry, I went too quick. The second part is about ensuring that there is a smooth and rapid access to market. And in this context, what will be very important is to take a look at the regulatory processes, but also the access to finance. And last is about the uptake, making sure that end users are ready for the uptake of these innovations, but also that we can support the building of demand. And this is extremely important because we cannot just focus all our efforts in the supply side. We also need to build a strong demand. So that there are different actions, as I was saying, that were put in place. I would like to start by the one that is closest to your activities, which is the Clinical Research Investment Plan. We have heard today that breakthroughs in advanced therapies, precision medicine do depend on clinical research in order to become real-world care. And we believe that Europe has very strong assets in order to be one of the leaders conducting clinical research, large population, rich genetic diversity, very robust healthcare systems, which include comprehensive clinical data, and impressive centers and scientific excellence. Nevertheless, as I think many of you have already highlighted, we are really declining in our worldwide share of clinical trials. And you know much better than me what the reasons are, but the results are quite important because patients have to wait longer, because innovators lose momentum, and because investments do move to faster trial ecosystems. So it was considered that it was extremely important to try to do something from the European Union side. And it was announced in the life science strategy, the development of a clinical research investment plan that would be seeking to act as an innovation enabler, complementing regulatory measures. I will talk later in the context of the Biotech Act that was adopted in December. So this plan vision is to advance towards a single market for clinical research in Europe. It will be complementary with the actions that are already ongoing, notably the accelerating clinical trials in the European Union, a collaborative initiative between the European Commission, the European Medicines Agency, and the heads of medicines agencies. And the plan will have two main pillars. One is facilitate funding. I think it has been also very much mentioned today, the importance of funding for multi-country clinical trials, in particular with the focus on investigator-initiated studies, and also specifically to support startups and SMEs. Another pillar of the plan is expected to be strengthening the European clinical research infrastructures, mainly with the intention to produce a positive impact in non-commercial but also commercial studies to overall increase the ability to run large-scale cutting-edge trials. I think that the priority that we are providing to clinical research is it's also very obvious in our main instrument for funding, which is Horizon Europe, where in the last 3 years of Cluster 1, we will dedicate likely more than 1 billion euro to support clinical trials through our different instruments, through our different topics, but also through co-funds with member states, so our way of co-fund with different member states in different areas, and also through the health-related joint undertakings. If we look at concretely ATMPs and our support for research and innovation in the field of ATMPs, we have dedicated also a lot of research and innovation efforts since FP6, as you can see in this slide. Just to give an example, which is not visible in the slide, in Horizon 2020, for example, we allocated during 4 consecutive years funding for calls exclusively for clinical trials for regenerative medicine. Horizon Europe, at the end of the program, we will have dedicated much more than in the prior framework programs, with not less than 13 topics dedicated to ATMPs. And this is just Cluster 1, so the cluster dedicated to health, which is part of the Pillar 2 of Horizon Europe. But if we look overall at all the pillars of Horizon Europe, we can estimate that around 1.6 billion euros are dedicated to research and development on ATMPs. This is very difficult to read, but it's a slide where we have identified the different topics supporting ATMPs in Cluster 1. I just wanted to show that in the last 3 years, we intensified the support for clinical research versus preclinical. And this brings me to the second flagship I wanted to mention. I'm sure you have heard about it. It's the creation of a network of centers of excellence for ATMPs. And here we are directly addressing one of the requests that was done by Draghi in the very famous report for the European competitiveness that was delivered close to 2 years ago. Draghi was advocating for Europe investing further in ATMPs, considered as a high-value technological area. And he was attributing partially, at least partially, the loss of competitive edge to fragmentation also in the investment in R&D for ATMPs. So the report was recommended to maintaining and expanding the capacity to do research in this field and putting as an objective to attain the global leadership in 5 years. So how to do this? Draghi was already suggesting that we should increase and focus public funding into the further development of a reduced number of world-class centers of excellence for advanced therapies, medicinal products. And even in the report, it was further drawing inspiration from what has happened from the US, the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, dedicated to advancing stem cell therapy, was even mentioned as an example for inspiration. So we took very seriously these recommendations, and we thought that actually we do have already solid foundations to deliver on the recommendations of this report. Mainly because we already have very strong centers. I think today has been proved how much knowledge there is in Europe, but also because this seems to be a priority not only at the level of the European Union, but also at the level of the member states who are developing national strategies, have already put them in place or are in the process in order to further foster this field. So what we did was to propose a coordination and support action to create a network of these centers. I will not talk much about it because it's currently being evaluated, the proposals that have been received. But this CSA is extremely important for us. It will have to develop a roadmap on how to ensure to regain the position of global leader in ATMPs. It will need to gather the different stakeholders and also to seek further political and financial support to implement the roadmap, considering also training and outreach capacity as extremely important. I think I'm running out of time. Okay, I will be very quick, but this is the last flagship I wanted to mention about, is the Biotech Act that was proposed by the Commission in December and which is now in interinstitutional decision-making with the Council and the Parliament. The objective is to turn Europe into a biotech powerhouse by both regulatory measures to simplify and accelerate, but also by developing industrial capacities in the field. And advanced centers, centers of excellence for ATMPs is mentioned in the Act as one of the examples of high impact strategic projects. So in this Act that I guess many of you know and that I hope will be quickly negotiate so that the benefits can come as soon as possible. It's a very extensive document, I think around 270 pages, but there are some specificities for ATMPs, like, for example, this proposal for extension of 12 months of the supplementary protection certificates for ATMPs with very strict conditions that are supposed to incentivize onshore development and manufacturing of cutting-edge ATMPs in the European Union. And of course, regulatory, extremely important, amendments to the clinical trial regulation to streamline procedural timelines. Important to say that the requirement for 50 days extension for ATMPs is proposed to be deleted, and it introduces also regulatory sandboxes here. And let me just remind you that regulatory sandboxes are supposed for products that do not fit into regulatory existing frameworks. If you are interested in this, I would advise you to enter in contact or observe what the IHI project Bridge is doing, because it is precisely developing a framework for regulatory sandboxes in healthcare. It's an innovative health initiative joint undertaking project, so quite interesting if you are interested in regulatory sandboxes. And last, also some amendments to the ATMP regulation, notably about exempting from submitting environmental risk assessment for certain ATMPs consisting of or containing genetically modified organisms that present no or negligible risks to human health or the environment, like, for example, viral vectors. Also, the possibility for the Commission to update ATMP definitions by delegated acts to reflect scientific advances, and this is to allow to keep pace with rapidly evolving fields like, for example, the tissue engineering products. And I think that's the last one. I'm closing. So we all recognize today that innovation needs to reach patients. That's the starting point, I think, for all of us. And clinical research is a key ingredient for us. So I think that it's very important that we collaborate all together at the level of the Commission, but at the level also of national and regional authorities in order to ensure that Europe remains the place where the most advanced therapies are discovered, also developed, but more importantly, that they are delivered to patients. And with that, thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.